River on a rather blustery day coming up from Yarmouth in the Solent. Okay, it's a blustery day, it's blowing 25 to 30 knots. I'm just about to start the engine and take in what remains of the jib, under which I've been running at 6 to 7 knots all the way up from Yarmouth. I'm lucky to say the engine actually started, which is good news. I seem to have going to pull in the jib now. Seem to have what is technically known as a cup here. 30 knots of wind. Okay, back on the approach again. Get my revs up to. Give all this under control. Yeah, 30-35 knots. Okay, let's see if the autopilot will now hold her while I get the okay. There are 4 main ports around the Solent, one on each corner. There's Cowes and Yarmouth on the Isle of Wight side. Opposite Yarmouth is Lymington, and opposite Cowes is the very beautiful Beaulieu River, which is probably the jewel in the crown of the Solent. The river itself is, the entrance to the river is guarded on either side by mud banks, which are the thick green marked stuff, and the river meanders up to Buckler's Hard and the Marina for about 4 miles. So it's probably going to take you about 3/4 of an hour to get up there if you stick to the speed limit, which is what you should probably do. The actual entrance to Beaulieu River from the Solent is very clearly marked and is accessible at any state of the tide for a boat like mine, which is 1.50 meters. If you stick in the dredge channel, and it's very wide and very well dredged, you'll have no problem going in there at all, as I didn't have any problem on this really quite blustery day for going into a place I've not been into for 40 years. As you come in from the Solent, you probably can't see the mud banks because they'll almost certainly be covered, but there is a 3-legged red pile with a notice on it, which is very clear and very obvious, and that's what you're aiming for. Obviously you're going to leave it to port as you go in, and it marks the entranceway to the channel. And once you get up alongside that 3-legged red pile thing, you'll be able to easily see the first red post and the first green post. They're all big posts, they're all brightly painted, and it's visible in any condition really. And last but not least, for the approach between the sandbanks before you get into the channel proper, you can see the little white lighthouse nestling in the trees just ahead of you, and that is the leading line up the main channel. And if you've got the yellow buoy to your stern and that lighthouse ahead, then you're going up the channel and you don't even need the posts. So it's really, really simple. Maybe it's going to be like this all the way up, I don't know. Beaulieu River Marina for control, Golden Haze, do you copy over?
Golden Haze, this is Beaulieu River Radio, go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon to you, sir. I just entered your river mouth and I think I have a reservation with you for a couple of nights. Over.
Golden Haze, Beaulieu River Radio, yes, your transmission is very intermittent, but I received that. We are expecting you. You'll be on the bottom end of the marina, on the inside of our long 80-metre Mr. South pontoon. If you are bound upriver on the heading tide, you'll be starboard side to it.
Just a procession of really, really nice boats. It's really what I dreamed of when I was a kid and wanted to have a boat and go sailing. I dreamt it would be like this. And this is perfect. Just perfect. Speed of 5 knots, depth of 5 meters, 8 knots of wind, sun's coming out. You can feel I might take my jacket off in a sec. I'm coming up now to Buckler's Hard, and there ahead of me is the visitors pontoon, and I'm going to have to swing into port and go on the inside of it. There really is something magical about waking up in Beaulieu River in the harbour here, because it's more a harbour than a marina. And although it's incredibly modern, the facilities are absolutely first rate, the pontoons are beautiful, electricity and everything else is superb, it is nonetheless a traditional English harbour for sailing boats, and really very, very special. I honestly don't know anywhere else in Britain that's as beautiful and nice as this is. The new travel lift and indeed the entire boatyard is now owned by the estate, and all the trades are available to do any repairs, modifications, or simply just haul your boat for the winter, all run by the estate's boatyard. When you walk off the pontoon, straight ahead of you is the chandlery shop, which is where you go in to register your arrival and pay your fees for the day. You can, of course, just pick up mooring buoys or be on a pontoon in the middle of the river. As well as the chandlery and the office, the shop has got everything you need in order to make your stay comfortable, from wine, milk, cheese, everything. It is a perfect one-stop facility. The washroom facilities are absolutely the best I've ever seen anywhere in the world. Both the ladies and the gents have got separate little cabins that you go into, each one with a WC, with a shower, with a wash hand basin, and plenty of room to put your clothes away in a sensible space. It is absolutely beautifully done, and of course, like everything else in this marina, is totally modern, totally up to date, and beautifully kept. And immediately outside the facility, you're back at the chandler's, where you can get anything you need for the boat as well. There is a restaurant area. There's where you can have drinks and things on the outside in summer, and there are barbecue facilities. And then you go through this swing gate and walk a short way along this pathway, and 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, you're in Buckler's Hard, and it's absolutely beautiful. The Master's Builder is a restaurant, which you probably need to book if you want to get a table, and throughout the entire place are things like this chapel, this little church which used to service seamen and the guys building the ships. And elsewhere along the estate, the you just walk into the little houses, and there you can see what it was like to live in the times of Nelson in Buckler's Hard. Absolutely delightfully put together demonstration of what life was like in that period. Fairly cramped, I think, but nonetheless, if you worked on the estate, you were probably a very, very lucky and privileged person. I have just had the most wonderful hour or so going round the Maritime Museum here in Beaulieu. I had no idea. I know it looks tiny from the outside. It's actually vast, and it has wonderful, wonderful history. Things I knew nothing about. Did you know that SOE, the Special Operations Service during World War II, was based here in Beaulieu? And they even had their own landing strip here, which Lysander took off to fly the agents to France. And all the training with blowing up things was done here on the Beaulieu Estate. And not to mention that, at Buckler's Hard, they were building the Mulberry Harbours, which were used once D-Day had happened and all the provisions had to be get in. They created these concrete harbours, took them across the channel and sunk them so the goods could be got ashore onto the coast of France. Built here in Beaulieu. Absolutely brilliant. And if you're into maritime history, if you're into boats and sailing and all that, the place is packed with it. And it's a real audio-visual experience. I mean, not only are there sort of beautiful models of ships and posters and explanations, but there's also wonderful interactive films. There's a film about World War II that runs for about 10 minutes. Absolutely fascinating, beautifully made. There's another one by a guy who was a rope craftsman called Stan, who rigged Chichester's Gypsy Moth and was born here on the estate and has been tying ropes and working with ropes, and absolutely brilliant. I mean, I have not enjoyed a visit to a museum so much in decades. If you come here to Beaulieu, you mustn't miss coming to this museum. It is brilliant. Still water at low tide, no wind, and absolute peace and calm. Made me grab the opportunity to slip away from Beaulieu Marina and go astern out into the river. I had such a relaxing time. I confess, all the places I'd visited since I sailed over to England from Boulogne had been highly commercial marinas, and to sail into such a place that is so full of history and so calm and so quiet and so beautifully presented made me very happy. At my website, gentlesailing.com, you can find my books about sailing and boats. French Canal Routes to the Mediterranean has sold over 3,000 copies, and the Gentle Sailing Route to the Med, down the Atlantic coast without having to spend a night at sea, has sold over 2,700 copies. The Atlantic Crossing Guide, which I published last year, is being downloaded in amazing numbers, I'm really pleased to say. They're all instant PDF downloads, and there's a link to a UK website that can turn them into printed books for around £5 if that's what you prefer. gentlesailing.com. About a dozen books there, including guides to the Caribbean and crossing the Pacific. Fair winds.